Welcome to the Loveland Report and Lone Ranger Show. I am Cleve Loveland, Central Florida's best real estate planner, alongside Bruce Woodburn, the Lone Ranger. We're going to talk to you about what interest rates are doing. We're going to talk to you about the Central Florida real estate market. We're going to talk to you about the nationwide real estate market, what's going on with prices, what's happening with the inventory. First of all, Bruce, I'm going to dig into, I got my top three things. Prices are up. Rent per square foot. We're going to talk about rent per square foot. Very important when you want to become a landlord. Then we're going to talk about functional obsolescence and super show garages, a couple fun things. But I want to mention functional obsolescence. I've seen this happen, and this happens when people start adding on to their homes and renovating or doing things. And we're going to go into that a little bit. So what do you got today?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about bridge loans. People want to buy a home and keep their own home. We're going to talk a little bit today about hard money, people that don't have maybe the credit or the income that they can show, but they want to buy property. We're going to talk about what works, what doesn't work, how to make that happen. And then I want to talk a little bit about Hometown Heroes because it opened up this week. And we got a bunch of people registered for that. We're going to talk about that. And then self-employed, no tax returns. We got a lot of things to cover. What's going on with interest rates? What happened in the market this week?
So we still 7? Around 7?
You're running in the 7s. If the rates got a little worse this week. We had some news come out. Some of the overseas banks think that we could be heading for a little bit more inflation. They're actually concerned about Trump being inflationary. And I'll tell you why. Here's what makes sense. Because first of all, we all know that our economy is going to be better if Trump gets in office. There's no question about that. I don't even think Democrats would argue with that point. However, if you stimulate the economy and the economy starts going and people start spending money again like crazy, then inflation does drive back up again. So it's a double-edged sword.
The trouble is they don't have any money right now. What are they going to spend?
Well, I'm just telling you what the foreign banks have said.
Well, I'm telling you that next Fed meeting, or we got 2 more Fed meetings.
You got a Fed meeting on July 31st, September 18th.
September 18th is one. We're going to be, I'll bet you a
steak.
I'll bet you a steak
the Fed's
dinner.
going to lower the Fed rate on September 18th.
One last deep state move to try and keep Sleepy Joe in. Well, they're going to cut the rate so he can say, I cut the rates.
It certainly will be interesting to see.
Vanilla ice cream.
So, you want vanilla ice cream? Is that what you want?
But one thing, this is what's going on, and it's funny. We've been dealing with this for 18, 24 months with interest rates rising, the real estate market slowing. Now, it's still a healthy pace, Bruce. We're still selling as many homes we sold in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. We're right there with it. But what's happened is prices are still up. Our average price is up to $450. Our median price is up slightly year over year. So I get my snapshots of the market every week, and we talk about that. Now, inventory has stretched out. Now, what's happened is we've developed into like tighter submarkets. If you're a 4.3 just built 4 years ago in downtown Winter Park, you're going to be a very tight market. You won't have any competitors. You'll probably have multiple offers as soon as you put the sign in the yard.
Okay.
If you are a 3.2 with 1,500 square feet in Deltona, you've got 100 competitors. Yes. So this is why you need a good realtor to help you price and plan your real estate move. But and you also have to look at this. This is what amazes me. I take listings probably 2 or 3 a month, Bruce. They were listed previously because about 10% of the market,
right?
They're on the market, but they're not in the market. And for whatever reason it is, and they call me, go, Cleve, I've heard you. Come show me what you do. I show them what I do, and they're like, oh my gosh, nobody was telling me this. And you've got to look at it. But I sit down with my sellers about every 3 weeks. And I just had one. We were on the market at 375, and it was a bit of a fixer-upper. And all of a sudden, 2 other people popped on the market with great listings at 379.
Oh boy!
And mine needed too much work. We went to 365. We sold. So,
right.
But if I would not have called my seller and said, "Hey, 2 of your neighbors." Now, I do have sellers that will stalk Realtor.com every night, and they look at it and say, "Hey," they'll call me going, "Hey, another one popped around the corner. Do we need to do anything?" And usually I'm not worried about people way above your price, like 50,000 above your price or 100,000 above your price. But this was 5,000 above our price, and they were nice listings. They didn't need any work.
You weren't a competitor at that point.
Yeah,
you would have never sold.
But the thing is to look at the market and determine where you're at and what do you need to do to make your house sell.
Right. Well, if you want a great realtor and you want to know what you need to do to get the most money for it, then give Cleve a call. He can be reached right now at 407-352-8118. In the meantime, if you're not going to pay cash, you might just need a mortgage, and that's where I can come in and help you. Bruce Woodburn, Cross Country Mortgage. I am the loan arranger. I've been in the mortgage business for 35 years. And we're going strong here. The month has started strong, Cleve. We got a lot of new applicants coming in. Matter of fact, this first week in the market was literally gangbusters with people jumping in. Unfortunately, rates deteriorated a little bit, but you know what? 1 week does not make a pattern.
But now the thing is, with prices being up, like I said, sellers are making money. Most of them did not buy their home. They bought their home more than 3 or 4 years ago.
Most of them.
And they're making a pretty penny.
Yes, they are.
They are okay to contribute. If they're smart, they're okay to contribute towards a buy down.
Well, listen, here's the thing. We are looking at rate buster programs right now to help people so that you can get into a home with a reduced mortgage, even if it's a temporarily reduced interest rate, to help you get into the home. And what we're doing is we're helping you to get the closing costs paid by the seller. Now, I think that every house is different, right? Because Cleve, if you put a house on the market and you got 15 people coming through the house the first weekend that you put it on the market, the seller would be less likely to help pay some closing costs.
Yes.
But if you've got a house that's been on the market for 30 days, you had 2 people come through it and maybe one ridiculous offer, you got a motivated seller at that point. So that's when you really want to jump in and negotiate. But our rate buster programs will help you get that interest rate down 1, 2, even 3% lower than prevailing rates. So if interest rates are around 7, you could get a rate in the 4s if you wanted to with a buy down.
Yeah.
It's possible to do.
Probably just need what do you think, a 1 year or 2 year buy down?
A 3-year buy down is worth it. I think it's too expensive. I think a 2-year buy down is as much as you need. It's going to get us through these tougher times. It's going to give you a lower payment.
Well, this is why people need to call you, because let's say the seller agrees to contribute. You're buying a $500,000 home and the seller agrees to contribute $15,000.
Right.
You want to talk to them and say, well, wait, we should just use $5,000 for a buy down, $10,000 for your cost, because it's not going to do any good.
Well, and different buy downs cost different amounts of money because the longer the buy down, the more money it costs. But if you wanted a 2-year buy down at 1% lower than prevailing rate is cheaper than a 2-year buy down at 2% lower than prevailing rate. So all of these and these programs, it's a lot to discuss on the air. But if you want a lower interest rate than everybody else is paying right now, then you need to call the loan arranger at 407-250-9144. That's 407-250-9144 or WeBringYouHome.com. Write that down, WeBringYouHome.com. We'll run the numbers for you. Listen, I start off with a soft credit pull. We don't affect your credit. Nothing. We're not going to do anything to tarnish your qualifications. We want to know what your buying power is. You need to know what your buying power is. I mean, I've got a client right now, Cleve, I'm running numbers for her, and she thinks she can buy, but if she doesn't sell, she's not going to be able to buy. And she wants to rent the current property, but once she adds the rent onto that current property and keeps that mortgage, her debt ratios are 80%. We showed her how to bridge that out, buy the new property, pay off all of her debts, and have enough money to buy the home. Now, isn't that what you're looking for, is solutions? Banks aren't going to come up with these solutions for you, but the loan arranger will.
That's right. So then after she gets her debt cleaned up and gets the new home she wants, then she can start doing leapfrog.
You know what amazes me? Let's just say I got this client. She's got $51,000 in debt between her car and all her credit cards and whatnot. But she's got $95,000 in retirement. Now, that really means that she's only got $40,000 in retirement.
Yeah.
She doesn't really have 95.
Yep.
Because she's got $51,000 worth of debt. So listen, debt is the enemy of wealth. Wipe out your debt. Start building your wealth. You can build a lot more wealth. Now, if you wipe out your debt and then you go buy more debt, then you're going to get yourself into trouble.
Yeah.
And I see that happening.
Well, you've taken people, like you've had some people you refied out of their 3% mortgage, but you paid off a Harley Davidson, a boat, and 3 credit cards. And instead of spending $4,000 a month on all their obligations,
you're spending $2,500.
But that $1,500, send that to the mortgage and pay the house down. And pay it off in 10 years.
Then you're paid off in 10 years. Yep. That's exactly right. And that's what you want to do.
That's what's important about having somebody professional like you around, and me to help guide you on your real estate journey, whatever you've got going on. Bruce, I want to mention something. We talked about leapfrog and people buying a primary, a couple years later, buy another primary, rent the first one.
That's right.
And do this 3 or 4 times over the period of 15, 20 years, or as fast as you can make the money. And you'll have yourself a nice generational wealth building portfolio that pays you some rent. You get the mortgages paid off. All the money from number 1 and 2 goes to pay off number 1 until number 1's paid off.
That's right.
We do all that. One thing to look at.
Oh, by the way, we are going to be rescheduling it.
We are rescheduling.
Cancel last month's class. Sorry about that. We had venue issues, but we will get that back on the calendar. I know several of our listeners called and said, "Oh my God, I was really looking forward to that class," and we apologize for that. We will put it back on the calendar.
All right. So, but I want to talk about rent per square foot. And this is where you get into, like, this is one way to look and measure what are you getting. And it's funny, I pulled an article out of the Wall Street Journal, $30,000 a month. You know what that gets you in Monaco? A 2-bedroom, 1,200 square foot apartment.
Isn't that crazy?
Central Park in New York. You actually get a nice place in Central Park in New York.
For $30,000 a month.
But this is why it's important to look at something. And I think the sweet spot for rentals is the 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom, 2-bath or 3-bath home with or without a pool. The pool doesn't necessarily add more rent because you definitely have to pay for the pool service. When you have a pool, you don't want to leave that up to the tenant. But this is what's important. And this is why I see, this is why the 5,000 square foot McMansion doesn't rent for $10,000 a month,
no.
Except maybe in a really, really ritzy neighborhood. But the higher you go in price, the more likely people are just going to go buy a home.
Of course.
So that's why there's less tenants.
You're going to pay $5,000 a month in rent. The only way you're going to do that is if you plan on moving soon or you do not qualify to buy a home.
Yep.
If you qualify to buy a home, then buy a home. Don't
just
rent.
Got divorced, just moved to town, might be getting a job transfer, things like that. But it's important to look at these things because I can tell, if you're in it for the most rent so you can cash flow, your mortgage payment's $2,000, your rent's going to be $3,500. It starts to drop off. And right now I'm seeing rents really skyrocket over the past 4 years. They're kind of peaking now and they're not climbing. And I've got some good tenants and we've tried raising their rents. Every year as a property manager, I'm always trying to raise rents. I want to make my landlords more money. I've had some people kind of dragging like the cat, dragging their claws in the carpet before they go, trying to take them to the bathtub. And it's just not working out.
I never really thought of it that way.
But you want to look at, okay, is it a good tenant?
Do you bathe your cat?
I don't have a cat. I'm not a cat guy. Okay. Just saying.
Just checking.
But it's just, this is where you got to watch out and see what's going to be the best rental. So when you go to buy a house, we can tell you, okay, this is going to be your next primary. The rents around here are really, really good. You got a great elementary school down the street. You're close to shopping. You've got a great location. You got a great neighborhood. All these things, we can look at what rents are and you can kind of get an idea. So, but you can also see that the house that's, where most of the houses are 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and 2,000 square feet, the one oddball on the street that's 3,300 square feet, he's not going to rent for $3,500 when the other ones rent for $2,500.
No.
So that's what you got to watch out for.
So in the Orlando area, Central Florida area, what would a 3.2 average rent for then? Do you have?
I'd say most of them now are up above 2,200.
Oh gosh, you can't get a 2-bedroom apartment.
Now super tiny or super old. Yeah. So I'd say, but and it's kind of like income areas. We go outside the metro area. I've got some brand new gorgeous homes that only rent for $2,400 a month.
Yes.
And part of that's income, part of that's population density. And so that's what's important about looking at the market. I had one landlord that wasn't really worried about cash flow. They didn't want any repairs. They'd had old properties. They bought new homes. Now that new home in Winter Garden would have rented for almost $3,000 a month.
I have a client right now, wonderful lady. I've already closed maybe 5 or 6 transactions for her. She's a true professional investor, but she has a job. She has a lucrative job, but she also invests. She just bought 5 homes from Trinity on the weekend. 5 in one shot.
Nice.
And they're all running around $650,000. How do you like that? One weekend.
That's one way to do
5 proproperties.
Now,
here's what she does. She buys them, keeps them a couple of years, keeps them rented, and then sells them, makes the profit, makes 150 grand on each one, then buys more, keeps them for 2 years, rents them. And that's what she does. She just keeps turning them over.
Yeah. And that's one way to do it. Now, I would just say the rents on those 650s are not going to be as much per square foot as the rents on 450s.
Of course they're not.
But I'm not going to tell the rich person they got rich the wrong way. So
No.
she's
doing
very
something
well.
right.
She's doing something right. So, but if you need help with your real estate plan, call me at 407-352-8118. Bruce, your number quick.
Yeah, 407-250-9144 or WeBringYouHome.com. That's WeBringYouHome.com. Cleve and I will be back in 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about what happened in the market.